Thank you, President. China supports the convening of this emergency meeting. And thanks USG Mr. Fletcher and Ms. Khalidi for their briefings. The recent easing and de-escalation of the situation in the Middle East is a positive momentum that we hope can be maintained and can become an enabler for resolving other hotspot issues in the region, including that of Gaza. A ceasefire agreement for Gaza was reached last October, but peace did not come as expected in its wake. Instead, death and suffering remains the daily reality in Gaza. The international community should work together to bring the violence in Gaza to a swift end, improve the humanitarian situation there, and restore lasting peace. I wish to make 4 points. First, a sustained ceasefire and true peace in Gaza and the safety of Gazan civilians are imperative. Gaza is trapped in a plight where ceasefire and low-intensity attacks coexist, and innocent lives are being robbed daily. Since the conclusion of the ceasefire deal, Israeli military operations have claimed nearly 1,000 lives. We are deeply concerned by Israel's continued expansion of military occupation, the extension of the Yellow Line zone, and worse, its threats to control 70% of Gaza's territory. Lasting security cannot be achieved through the use of force, which would only create more obstacles to peace. We call on the parties, especially Israel, to fully comply with the ceasefire agreement and halt any reckless violations of the ceasefire. Countries with significant influence over the parties should act more proactively and vigorously to push for a sustained ceasefire. Second, it is essential to fully expand humanitarian access to Gaza to ease the humanitarian crisis there. Israel's draconian restrictions are keeping over 2 million people in Gaza trapped in what amounts to an open-air prison. Minimum conditions for survival, such as sufficient food, clean drinking water, and stable shelter, remain luxuries out of reach for the Gazans. The healthcare conditions in Gaza are deteriorating further, with shortages of medicine and fuel pushing the medical system to the brink of collapse, while sewage and overcrowding are breeding and spreading infectious diseases. Humanitarian access must not be weaponized, and the arbitrary and reflexive closure of crossings only intensifies the collective punishment. We urge Israel to fulfill its obligations under international humanitarian law, lift its restrictions on humanitarian supplies, keep all crossings fully open, and guarantee the delivery of badly needed food, medicine, fuel, and shelter materials and units to Gaza. Third, it is essential to ensure that humanitarian agencies can operate as mandated without impediment to safeguard the lifelines of Gaza. These agencies prop up a bridge of life for Gaza's population, with UNRWA being the backbone of humanitarian operations in Gaza. For some time now, the agency has been subjected to continuous attacks and suppression by Israel. Over 390 of its staff members have been killed in Gaza. Recently, Israel introduced a new registration policy for international NGOs, which will severely impact and hamper humanitarian operations in Gaza. Israel should stop suppressing UNRWA, support and protect the work of the agency and other humanitarian actors in Gaza, and ensure the safe, uncomplicated and unimpeded delivery of humanitarian aid. Fourth, it is essential to advance post-war arrangements in Gaza steadily and appropriately and implement the two-state solution. Gaza is the homeland of the Palestinian people. Any arrangements or the creation of new mechanisms must be guided by the principle of Palestinians governing Palestine, respect the will of the Palestinians, and promote rather than undermine the two-state solution. Gaza, now a picture of utter and extensive devastation, has yet to rise from the ruins across all fronts. Post-war recovery and reconstruction should commence as soon as possible. Imposing preconditions on this effort would only prolong the suffering of civilians. The international community must take irreversible steps to implement the two-state solution and reject any and all attempts to alter Gaza's demographic composition and redraw its map. Last month, the Security Council reviewed the first report submitted by the Board of Peace and should continue to keep a close watch on the developments in Gaza and any post-war arrangements, as this Council is mandated to do. China remains committed to working with the rest of the international community towards a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire in Gaza, an end to the humanitarian catastrophe there, the implementation of a two-state solution, and a comprehensive, just and lasting settlement of the question of Palestine without further delay. I thank you.